Bismarck, I think included, went to America because they had learned about the Wild West and Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok. Most of these characters didn't have such colourful lives. And if they were involved in any colourful incidents, very often it was because of an accident. That they happened to be in a place at the time when a gun went off. So the fascination with the Wild West by Europeans was similar to the fascination for Eastern Europe. So being inspired by St. Michan's, being inspired by the famine, being inspired to read about Eastern Europe, Bram Stoker already was beginning to develop the elements that would make Dracula the novel. One place in England that is important is a little port on the east coast of England that in those days middle-aged families, those that had a little bit of money, though not much, would travel out of the pollution of London to visit Whitby. And I've never really understood the thrill until then, the thrill of writers who write about other people's lives. But I must say my visit to Whitby I almost had goose pimples at a particular time, following the footsteps of Bram Stoker 100 years later. Because Bram Stoker used to rent a couple of rooms in a bed and breakfast in Whitby. And I found out which bed and breakfast he stayed in 100 years before. And I went there, it was a very bad weather. I remember Glastonbury Festival was on and it was a mud bath. It was almost abandoned. I know that Wimbledon was cancelled, there was so much rain. A lot of rain, a lot of lightning. I had to travel by plane, train, bus, and I almost had to travel by boat just to get to Whitby. When I got there, I got to the bed and breakfast, I went upstairs to my room, and the curtains were drawn, it was evening time. And I remember standing at the curtains, pulled them open, and that's when I had the goose pimples on my arms, because looking out, I could just imagine 100 years before, Bram Stoker standing there, he's in the midst of writing Dracula, and he hasn't yet worked out how he's going to get the vampire to England. He probably doesn't want to bring the vampire to London because London is too industrial, it's too big, it's not the right atmosphere, it's not the right ambience. But outside the window as I look down, the harbour of Whitby is narrow. You can see the foaming froth of the water. There are some rocks there, there's a high wall. And I could just imagine him standing there in his holidays and thinking, that's where my vampire is going to arrive. Perfect for him. And lo and behold, in the book, the local people are woken up in the middle of the night with the sound of the storm and the ship against rocks. They go outside in the rain and they see the ship in distress against the rocks, and a black dog jumps off the ship and runs up 101 steps and howls at the moon. Well, next day I got up, walked about half a mile, and lo and behold in Whitby there is an ancient graveyard and there are 101 steps up to it. So that's exactly where he got his inspiration to have the vampire arrive in England. At the same time in Whitby when I was there, Kevin, you'll empathise with this, I am sure. There was a battle on, a political battle on, between what would best be described as the Captain Cook lobbyists and the Dracula lobbyists. And they were passionate about these subjects because Captain Cook left from Whitby to discover